Criminal masterminds. What is the worst crime you've gotten away with? Alright, I created an alt account just for this. Under the guise of internet anonymity and an IP proxy, I'm letting out my story. I've stolen over $8,000 by shoplifting from Walmart and various other stores over the last year and a half. I don't really regret what I've done, but I do feel sorry for corrupting several of my friends by showing them how easy thievery is. If I ever get caught by the authorities, I'll probably have less than $50 of merchandise on me at the time and get almost no punishment compared to how much I'm really worth. The first step. It started 2 years ago when I was really young. My mother had just been putting some clothes away and looked in my sock drawer, discovering my mildly impressive stockpile of Swiss rolls and jelly beans that I had bought in bulk and slowly eaten away. She confiscated it all and took my wallet so I wouldn't be able to buy more. I was, of course, devastated. I wanted candy, but what could I do with no money? The answer came to me a week later, while at Rite Aid. I was picking up some batteries for my dad. I had his card, so any purchases would be registered, but what if I didn't purchase the candy? This was a crazy idea, of course. The cameras would see me. The cashier would see me. The bulge under my shirt would be obvious, and the crinkling would sound like a goddamn earthquake. None of it mattered, of course. I needed that sugar. So I grabbed the smallest bag of sour worms I could and hurried to the back of the store. Under the guise of crouching to look at Band-Aids, I surreptitiously tucked the bag into my waistband. Though I was insanely nervous, I walked up to the cashier, paid for my batteries, and left. I was giddy yet terrified. I had a way to get free candy anytime I wanted. However, there was a nagging doubt in the forefront of my mind, constantly informing me that I had just stolen something. Committed a crime, broken the law, but I shook it off. I was hardcore, and so I merrily proceeded home, full of vigor and soon to be full of candy. Learning the ropes. Over the next 2 months, I was constantly learning. Whenever I biked to a friend's house, I would stop at Rite Aid and pick up some goods. I began taking a string bag for higher food capacity, and with it, I started grabbing larger items. Bottles of soda, bags of beef jerky, even small bags of chips. I learned that the black camera domes were not all seeing eyes, but merely contained one camera that faced one direction, and with that knowledge, I found blind spots in the camera coverage. One spot right between the soda fridge and the candy aisle was particularly well used. I was getting bolder. I would grab extra for friends and once even stole a fairly expensive bottle of deodorant. I was the king of thieves, and Rite Aid was my domain. Even though I had been trusted with a wallet again, I would usually walk out the front door of the store without even buying anything. I'd learned something at that time. Most people really didn't care what happened in the store so long as it didn't stare them in the face. The cashiers would ignore crackling in my bag and customers would make up an excuse for the shoveling noise in the other aisle as long as they didn't see a thing. They were complacent, I was complacent. Life was good. Gotta get 'em all. At this point, I was confident in my ability to steal from Rite Aid. I was almost bored. However, in the meantime, something new developed. Several of my friends began playing Magic the Gathering at school during lunch. I wanted in, but had no money to get cards with. That would change. A couple of weeks later, I was looking for a book at Books A Million when I noticed a card rack. Dozens of packs of cards from every expansion you could imagine. I had a purpose again. I worried about the foil packs, which could have tripped the door alarms, but I stayed calm. I took a half dozen packs, tucked them into my back pockets, and went into a bathroom stall. I took them out of each pack, tucked the cards in my bag, and left the store. I was ecstatic. Candy was one thing, but cards could be worth real money. With my excitement, the nagging doubt was back. This was a whole new level of crime. But if I stayed calm and followed a procedure, I could do this. The Fat Pack. This is a small chapter, but a major milestone in my progression of crimes. One day when I came back to Books A Million, something new was there. A 9-deck Fat Pack with deck box and D20. I had to have it. One small catch. There was a spider wrap alarm on the box. I had to loosen it before I could get the cards out. I took the box, tucked it into a lower shelf of the Bible aisle, and began slowly loosening the packaging. It took almost 20 excruciating minutes of slow work, worrying every time some woman came through to pick up a new Bible. Finally, I got it. I was in the big leagues now. I was ready for large merchandise. Walmart. At this point, I had built up a large stockpile of cards. I finally had a driver's license, and with it, I decided to try stealing from Walmart. I had heard on the internet that Walmart had almost no asset protection and was easy to steal from. I gave it a try. I grabbed 2 fat packs of magic cards, several bags of jelly beans, and some other food. I found a corner and stripped the packaging, tossed everything in my bag, and walked out. This was easy. I wanted to take advantage of the hilariously bad security, so I decided to move up to larger items. The next time I went shopping, I grabbed a card as I went in, stocked it with several Nerf guns and various consumables, and just walked out the front door once again. No second glances, no concerns, no security. I had an infinite storehouse of free stuff, with no danger. I figured I could get literally any item in the store and decided to test my hypothesis. One day I just walked through the store and passed the electronics section. What was the harm? Once again, I had reached a milestone in shoplifting. I saw a nice gaming mouse. Grabbed it. A new pair of headphones. Grabbed them. A new iPod case. Grabbed it. I didn't care anymore. I just stole whatever I wanted and once again walked out casually. No alarms, no watchful employees, no accountability. I was truly living the high life now. Parental evasion. At this point, I was acquiring things more valuable and conspicuous than mere bags of candy. I needed an alibi from my parents. Though I was able to explain away magic card packs and decent headphones, if their son started using a brand new $80 gaming mouse, they would become suspicious for sure. So I created a fake eBay account, listed my stolen items, and began bidding on them. Yeah, Mom, look at this great deal I got on a mouse. Here's the page, and he even has a gaming keyboard for cheap too. I exploited their trust, but I had to somehow prevent suspicions from arising. While I was waiting to buy items, I would stash them in our attic, because there was a ventilation shaft between it and my closet that I could push things through. When the items would be shipped, I would place the boxes outside after the mailman dropped packages and be sure to retrieve them before my parents noticed the lack of shipping materials. As long as I kept control of the situation, everything would be okay. Introducing a newbie. One time when I wanted to go shoplifting, a friend decided to tag along. At this point, I had kept it my own secret and decided that when we got to Walmart, I would reveal the truth. I wasn't going to be buying anything, but I would be getting things anyway. He freaked out. He refused to believe that the process was easy and risk-free, and he refused to stay near me when I walked out of the store. He tagged along several times after that and eventually asked me to grab several items for him. I felt proud that I had something to offer him and that I was exercising the spirit of giving. I fancied myself as Robin Hood, stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. Eventually, my friend began making his own cart, filling it with fervor. I'm glad I had a partner in crime, but I often wish I had never dragged him into this whole thing. If I get caught for good, I never want anyone else to come to harm. Falling into a routine. At this point, me and my friend went shoplifting several times a week, grabbing whatever we thought would be fun to have. We've stolen Nerf guns, had one fight, and then thrown them away. We've grabbed a half dozen mobile speakers, tested their merit, and thrown every single one away afterward. We just don't care anymore. There's no risk. We've covered every angle. And so we developed some rules. Only steal from large chains, no hurting small shopkeepers. Only give up to 3 things to other friends to keep our crime ring small and keep others out of harm's way. And so we just steal and steal and steal. Whatever we want, whatever we need. With no risk, we often end up stealing more than we could ever need and leaving 20 pounds of valuables on the side of the road. I wish I could end this with a tree fiddle and some silly joke, but it's real. I've done all of it. Sometimes I feel like Patrick Bateman, just hoping beyond hope for some sort of end to it all, some sort of punishment. But then I listen to music through my high-end headphones, type and game on my mechanical keyboard, and look at the dozens of discs I could plug into my Xbox at any time. I eat my endless chips and candy, and I know I won't stop. I wish I could say I hate doing it. I wish I could say that I lay awake at night and hate myself, but I don't. I like free stuff. It doesn't bother me one bit what I have to do to get it. Oftentimes when I go shoplifting with my friend, it barely occurs to me that we're stealing. We're just shopping, and the part where we walk out before paying is implied. I barely think of it as a crime. So there. That's my story of a criminal mastermind, my trip down the path to criminality. Enjoy. And this, my fellow viewers and listeners, is why you shouldn't justify stealing small things by thinking, it's just a tiny bag of candy. Nope, it's a slippery slope. If you enjoyed that one, grab some popcorn and brace yourselves for more stories from criminal prodigies. While you're here, don't forget to like and subscribe. Story 2. When I was very young, some guy threatened me and took my bike. The bike was worth just under $1,000. At the time, I was with 2 friends, all on bikes. Another guy tried to take both of the other bikes and also had a blade. I let the guy take my bike because, well, I'm a little kid, and I don't want any trouble. I was scared, so I pretty much bailed. Another friend did the same, but one guy tried to argue with him. He's blind in one eye, but still has all his fingers and his hand works fine. Just a scar. Before you ask, it was my brother's bike. I was only going close to home, so he let me ride it. There was no way I could own such a bike at such a young age. So that happened. The 3 of us were left there trying to figure out what to do while my friend was injured. I mean, we were all kids, so pretty much on edge already. But I almost passed out looking at him and felt sick. I've never been in such a messed up situation in my life. So my friend stays with him while I go for help. I knocked at the first house. It was dark and some old guy told me to go away. I guess he thought I was just a dumb kid babbling and crying, so whatever. He was an a-hole and it didn't help. I went to the next door neighbor and one of the automatic lights came on outside the door. That's when I noticed for the first time that I had some red stains on my hands and arms where I wiped my tears and mouth after the fight. So this woman just stares at me in shock and calls her husband, so all her kids come out and start crying too. I couldn't even imagine such a disaster, but eventually, he got me talking clearly enough for him to understand and the police got called. We all ran back to the road where it happened and a guy with his dog had already stopped to see what happened. He didn't have a cell phone though, so it was good the family had the police on the way. One police car arrived, despite my telling that a kid was in his last breaths. A few moments later, a paramedic car and an ambulance arrived. Once the police established that this was very real, everything got busy fast. They had the helicopter up looking for the guys and a bunch more ambulances came to check us for injuries. The street was all closed off for forensic stuff, and I couldn't count all the blue lights from police and medics. So yeah, he survived, and we stayed friends, got new bikes, and moved on. I never forgot it, and it messed me up pretty badly for a while. I was paranoid all the time and scared to go out with anything even slightly expensive, like a phone or a watch. 2 years later, I'm on the train going to an interview for college, and my brother's bike is right there in the bike compartment thing. It had a bunch of different parts, so the bike was unique, and I knew for a fact that it was the one, but I didn't know what to do. I just sat there looking at it, but I didn't have a cell phone on me to call anybody. A guy came and took the bike off the train and got off at the next stop. I thought I'd do something, so I got off the train after him and tried to follow. I didn't really think it through, though, because, hey, bikes are faster than feet. So he rode off, but I don't know which way he went out of the station. So for that night, I'm thinking about how dumb I was to let it go. That could be the guy who hurt my friend and now it's gone. Idiot. But I decided to check it every day. I got on the same train for about 4 or 5 days and waited around the station for about a half hour with a cell phone this time. Eventually, I saw it and followed on my bike. So now I see where he lives and when he travels properly, but I still have no idea if he's the guy. Maybe he just bought it on eBay or something. I told my brother and he told the police. The police said that they couldn't positively identify it because we had no photos or receipts for the bike or parts and we didn't record the serial number or stamp on the bottom. So I'm angry that we can't get it back and we can't find who was responsible because, hey, it was 2 years ago and the police have bigger things to do now. So I followed the guy over and over just thinking about what to do. The one time he went home and I'd usually go to a shop nearby and then take the train back. As I'm walking back with a soda, he comes from the house with 4 other guys and it is them who took the bikes. I don't know who the 2 extra guys were, but just other friends, I guess. But first, sure, I know it is the guy who took my bike and, more importantly, the guy who did this to my friend. So I told the police again and again that I knew it was them and I asked my friend if he could ID him and he said yes, but the police don't care now. It is too old and they can't trust a kid to positively identify somebody from 2 years ago, even with the bikes. I'm angry at the police for not helping more. So my friend and I took my dad's truck this time and we stopped until I could see him again, come from the house. It took a few days, but then he said it was him. I knew 100% anyway, so now we both know this guy. So when we followed him, we found his car and house, and one day he did a hit and run on this car when he stopped. We just nudged the side of his car, and so he chased us to pay for the damage. We stopped on a quiet road eventually and pretended to be sorry, like, oh, I didn't see you, etc. And then just had a physical confrontation with him. My friend was really angry, but that situation was too heavy. I intervened when things got heated, and well, it didn't feel any better. We just left him there on the road and went home. I was worried for a while that he might have had a serious accident and would be in trouble for a long time, but then I saw the news report that he was in a coma. He eventually woke up and is now using a wheelchair. I think he has brain damage, but I'm not sure. I always thought the revenge would make us feel better and like we fixed it, but he still has his scar and now the only people who suffer are his family, who have to push his wheelchair, feed him, bathe him and stuff. Now I'm 24 and I think we messed up, but then I see my friends' faces still and I don't know. I think it was needed, but it wasn't right. Story 3. We have a big outdoor music festival here every year that is in a large park downtown. They also shut down the streets around it as well as use the civic center right by the park. Before I technically became an adult, we went like we, with my then-girlfriend, did every year. Well, it was the last day of the event and it was coming to an end on Sunday night. As we were sitting in front of the stage for one of the last acts, I got the ever-so-dreadful churning and gurgling in my stomach that I always knew was going to end in trots. The porta potties are about a football field away and they always had long lines, so I decided to tough it out since I was about to head home. It progressed further, to the point that I was starting to sweat and get sharp pains as we began packing up and walking out. I have to walk about 4 blocks over to the parking garage where I and her family are parked. So we get by there, I'm clenching, trying to hold it together, and she's doing the usual drawn-out teenage goodbye, which feels like an eternity. Finally, she leaves and I head up to the middle deck. About 3 floors up, they were on the bottom, to my car. As I walk toward my car, she calls my phone and informs me she still has my keys in her purse, and to come back down and get them. Now at this point, it has rapidly progressed to the point where I'm a penguin walking around this parking garage about to lose the good fight. I get back down and get my keys. She draws out a love you, I'll miss you, blah, blah, blah again, and I'm about to just run away. She leaves and I think maybe I can get back in and just hold it till I get to the porta potty. No dice. Since the event was over, they wouldn't let anyone back in. I make it back to the garage, dripping buckets of sweat, having to stop every 10 feet or so to clinch and wait for the all-temporary clear. There's no public elevator in this garage, so I'm between floors and the stairwell when it's game time. Nothing could hold it back. I fling my pants and boxers off and the most horrible liquid spews out and all of a sudden, click, the door on the bottom floor, 2 flights of stairs below me, opens. I quickly wet my bottom with my boxers and throw my pants back on. As I'm entering my floor door, I hear, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I hop in my car and take off. Flash forward to the next day, we're sitting around watching TV and they run a news story about the event. Apparently the doorway I lost it at was also the floor that had the entrance to the mayor's office. They're looking for the vandals and there may be a reward for any information. At this point, being young, I'm freaking out thinking, what if cameras saw me? What if they saw my car and started questioning people? What if they DNA tested the poo? My girlfriend is utterly disgusted at the story and thinks, people like that should be put down. A few days later, I got a call from the police department saying that I needed to come down to the station. I'm, of course, freaking out and I immediately turn pale white, according to my mom. We make it down to the station and I'm at the point of being in tears, thinking I'm going to jail. It turns out they recovered my stolen car stereo, which was stolen a few months ago. They just needed me to sign off on it. Story 4. 15 years ago, I worked as a bike messenger in a mid-sized city in the South. It was great to ride every day and kept me in shape. I rode the same route downtown in Sud City every day, starting around 8 a.m. Riding in the same way, going to the same spots over and over, I developed a pattern and began to notice the patterns around me. There was a bank in my route that had cash delivery every Wednesday morning, in preparation for the weekend. The driver or guard would load coins in the bottom of a hand truck or dolly, stack plastic bags of cash on top of the coins, and walk the money into the bank between 9 and 9:15. I got fired from a delivery job, so I no longer work downtown riding my bike. I still, however, know the patterns. There was an event in town 2 or 3 weeks after my dismissal. It occurred to me that in preparation for the event, the bank would need more cash on hand than normal. This would be a great time to just ride by and steal one of those plastic bags of money, I said to myself. How do I get away, though? My grandfather was fond of saying that one shouldn't do one's dirt solo because one will never snitch upon oneself. I took this to heart. I called my cousin Tuesday night and promised him $100 to meet me at a specific location at 9:30 the next morning, and if I hadn't shown up by 10, to leave. $100 for 30 minutes of time? Who, aside from a high-end working girl, is going to pass that up? I waited, with coffee, 3 blocks away from the armored truck to show up. I watched the guard load the coins and several bags of cash onto the hand truck, and just at the perfect moment, he blazed up the street on the bike. I had a cap and sunglasses on, rode a stolen bike, and got one of the bags. The guard got a look at me. He was looking right at me. But I didn't break stride in the bike. One fell swoop, like a bird picking a fish from the water. It was so clean. I get chills just thinking about it. I was 2 blocks away before anyone else but the guard and driver of the truck knew what happened. My cousin was waiting for me. I ditched the bike, got into his car, and he brought me to another bank where I gave him his $100 and then he brought me home. No violence, no firearms, no threats. $88,000 minus $100. After learning the sophisticated moves of criminal geniuses, switch gears and join me in the next video. What's something illegal you did and got away with? Story 3 seriously would leave you speechless. See you there.